Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly. Well, welcome back to the DCL podcast, and as always, it's fun to introduce back to the show our co-host, Christy Puttick of PackYourPixiesDust.com Travel. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Not too bad. And you guys just got back from another Disney cruise, and we're going to talk about that today.
Yeah, earlier this week even.
Yeah, that's...
we never record this quickly.
No, not at all. So, well, let's just jump right into it. Why did you guys pick this cruise this time, Christy?
All right, so we did a 3-day on the Dream. It was over Labor Day weekend. We picked it because, well, the first reason was because my son's daycare was closed on Thursday and Friday. And my thinking was, if I can't go to work because I have to stay home with him, so obviously I can work, I just have to work from home, but I might as well be on vacation. So if I'm not going to be in my office, I should be on vacation. So we were starting to look back, and I think we did this in May. We were starting to look at what to do. We were looking at Walt Disney World because I haven't been to Walt Disney World since February, which for me is a long time. Then I don't even know where this came from, but I did the math, and we had 8 cruises on Disney Cruise Line. We already sailed. We have one next summer already booked, booked. So we needed one more to be platinum, and I just was like, I'm going to chase platinum. So we picked this cruise because we were off that weekend, and I'm chasing platinum.
I'm gonna have to run that by my wife. Next the next time the kids are home and we have to watch them, let's just go on a cruise instead. So no, good for you guys. And what was it?
We also had just gotten our tax refund back, like at the same time that we realized, because we do our taxes late a lot of times, but we got it back at the same time we realized that daycare was going to be closed. So it was like we had a couple $1,000 burning a hole in our pocket. And so that we didn't need for any other reason, really, which is horrible to say. But it was like, okay, let's think about this.
So you're a travel agent, and you watch the prices quite a bit. What kind of price did you get going over Labor Day? Is that a typical time of the year where the prices go up, or what do you think about that?
No, it was within reason. But here's something I did find to be interesting. So I booked it just before final payment date for everybody, and it was like just before first-time cruisers would be able to book their activities. And so I knew, at final payment date that then they do a bunch of guaranteed staterooms and things like that if they have cabins that they can't fill, and they'll have those like non-refundable but cheaper. The price never got cheaper, and I was a little shocked by that. I ended up booking, like, we kept going back and forth, and I found that I had a onboard booking that I hadn't used yet, so that was kind of fun. So I did get the 10% off of the cruise for using my onboard booking. But the price never went down lower than it did when I booked, which was somewhere in between when Silver could book and when the first-time cruisers could check in. So, like, that was interesting to me in terms of pricing. It never went down in price. So I guess the moral of that story is, because I was looking for my brother because he was considering coming with us too. So I just kept watching the prices. But the moral of the story is, if you decide with Disney you want to go on a cruise, I guess just book it.
Yeah, I mean, just historically, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that a time when you might see a price drop when final booking comes around?
Yes.
Okay. But, I mean, it's not going to be drastic. It's not going to go down to like $200 a night or something like that. But you might see a little bit of a drop at that point.
Right. It might be a little. And I also looked at the touring plans, has that cruise price calculator, and I was looking to see how much the cruise had gone up. And obviously it goes up from its first booking, but it hadn't gone up a lot. Mm-hmm. So that price seemed pretty, reasonable all the way through.
Well, that's kind of good to know. So, I mean, that might be an area where you can get some value. I know that this is a whole other subject we could talk about, prices of Disney cruises. And obviously, popular times, the prices have...
ridiculous.
Have grown quite a bit. But we're going to have Len Testa on the show here in about a month, and he is taking a cruise out of Quebec City to New York, and those prices have stayed low. Matter of fact, they've been trying to do all they can, I know, with Canadian rates and other military rates to get people on those cruises. So I think that there is value out there if you can cruise during those certain times.
Yes. And this one, I was looking at the prices for the week before. In the week before, so August 24th, I believe, the price, it wasn't much different, even though it was over a holiday weekend.
Okay. And I've never used that tool with touring plans that they have for the pricing. Is that pretty easy to use?
It is easier now. They actually updated it and made it a little bit easier. It was harder because they had like these ABC itinerary things. So it is easier now. You could see what the price has done.
So you can kind of see what it started with. Is that at each category or just overall?
It is on each category.
Okay.
It isn't for the exact number of people. Like they do a test and say, okay, for these people, these ages, here's what this price has done.
Okay. Well, maybe we can talk to Len about that a little bit, because that's a good I've never used it. And I mean, if you're looking like you are, we always say, and you always say, if you're going to book a cruise, the earlier you can book it, the better, especially like opening day. That's when you're going to get your lowest prices. But that's a great tool to use to kind of take a look at, if you decide to go, not last minute, but, later on that you want to look at it, you can see like, is this still a realistically good price from what it was opening day?
Right. And how much more am I paying versus opening day?
Right.
Sometimes that really isn't knowledge you want, but So
I got one other question too, and I didn't really realize this when we first started cruising. My thought was to book a cruise, and then when you go on the next cruise, kind of renegotiate the price, with the onboard booking at that time. But now I've become I've flipped 180 degrees that, having that onboard booking all the time really helps you out. As far as then once that opening day's prices come out, you get the 10% off. Plus you get, depending upon the length of the cruise, you get some onboard credit as well. Can you get more than one of those while you're on board, or can you only have one?
You can have two.
Okay. So you can get up to two.
And you can have more than one. So like I could have bought two on the previous cruise and then bought two on this next cruise. And so I could have, 4 overlapping, and you just get your money back if you don't use it. But a couple of the caveats that I think we've said before, I know we have, you don't get 10% off on concierge rooms, and you don't get them. There are blackout dates, which are like the major holidays.
Well, I guess what we're talking about for those, if you didn't follow this, when you're on board the ship, you can either book an actual cruise, or if you don't book an actual cruise, you can do a pre-booking. And what's the actual name for it, Christy?
On-board booking.
Okay. You could do an onboard booking for $250, and what that gives you is it's kind of a placeholder, so that when you find the cruise you want to do, you use that placeholder. The $250 is applied towards the cruise, plus, as Christy said, if it's not concierge or if it's not a blackout date, you get 10% off the price of the cruise at that date. And then depending upon the length of the cruise, you can get onboard credit as well.
Right. So it is an onboard booking for a bounce back offer, essentially. And you get this offer if you book, like we said, onboard. And if you don't have your date picked, then it is a placeholder onboard booking, bounce back offer. So There you go. Those are all the names.
There we go. All right, thanks.
They will, just so everybody knows too, there is a desk that you can go to sign up, and they'll list their hours of when they're available. They will also put, I think they have, these cards that are at that desk that you can fill out and just say, I want an onboard booking, and make sure you list your travel agent if you use one, so that they can continue to be your travel agent. There's like a box that you check or whatever there. And then you can either sit down with them, or they'll just give you a price and bill it to your account. Like you say, yes, I want to do this, bill it to my account, or give me an onboard booking and bill it to my shipboard account.
Yeah, and that's what I did last time, because you'll find that they're usually pretty busy throughout especially at the end of the cruise.
Yes.
So what we've done the last 2 times is I've just picked up that card, filled out all the information. They've got a box on the desk. I just put it back in the box. And within the next day or two, you get an email confirmation that you've got your onboard booking booked already. So that's the easiest way to do it. If you don't know the cruise you want to do and you just want to get that onboard booking, you can do it that way.
Yes.
So, well, let's transition to your cruise, the 3 days on the Dream out of Port Canaveral. And I thought before we started talking about the cruise itself, in the past, you've had some thoughts, both good and bad about 3-day cruises. And I was just wondering if they'd changed it all after this one.
I have a little more more respect for the 3-day cruise after I've cruised it.
And maybe I shouldn't say bad. Not that any Disney cruise is a good cruise.
Right. For sure.
Right. But just some thoughts on the 3-day cruise.
Yeah. So I have more respect for it. However, I have even more stronger feelings that a 3-day cruise is not the right cruise for a first-time cruiser.
Okay, explain.
Or even a first-time Disney cruiser. There is so much people want to do, and there's so much they're trying to pack in, like the princess meet and greets and the Olaf, or the Frozen rather, not Olaf, the Frozen meet and greets and the Castaway Cay. And you're trying to get all of this in, and there's not enough time if it's only, a 3-day cruise is 2 days plus dinner, plus maybe a tiny bit of time prior to the lifeboat drill on the first day. It is a short cruise. I mean, it is 2.5 days at best, or 2 days and a quarter of actual time on the ship. And that is not a lot of time. So, and let's say you wanted to go to Nassau. So if you're getting off the ship in Nassau because it's your cruise stop and you want to do something there, you're hardly on the ship at all. And there is a lot to do and a lot to see. And if you want to do characters, if you want to do everything, I am keeping that that theory that if it is your first Disney cruise or your first cruise in general, do not do a taste with the 3-day. It is too short. There was actually somebody on my Facebook cruise group. So you can do a search for the date of your cruise and the ship you're going on, and there's likely a Facebook group. And if you want to talk to and connect with other cruisers that are on your cruise, you can look for them and speak to them. And if you were going to join the Fish Extender, which, we'll talk about in a different episode. If you're going to do some of these things, you meet up with the groups on Facebook is one of the ways. And so one of the people in our Facebook group came back and said, oh man, I didn't like the cruise, but I think it's because we were doing too much. And she actually even said, if we had done longer than a 3-day cruise, would we have liked it, do you think? And there was a whole, long discussion about it. And I really just think that was the problem. It was trying to pack too much in a short period of time.
Yeah, especially when you have Castaway Cay that second day, or the second day, I guess.
Right.
You're going to be off the ship the entire time there, so it really makes it hard. Or you feel like, I would think that maybe you feel like you missed out on a lot of different things.
Yes.
Yeah. So obviously, if that's all you can do, book it. But if you can go a little bit longer, that's what you're kind of recommending.
That is what I personally recommend.
Okay, so that being said, now what about somebody who's been on several different cruises or been on Disney several different times? Thoughts on a 3-day cruise then?
It's kind of nice because it's just over a weekend.
Yeah.
Even if you decided to fly on the day of, you're only missing a Friday and a Monday of work. And obviously, if you fly in the night before, and if you're not coming from the West Coast, you can even take a later flight. So you can come after school on Thursday or whatever. Or if you're a local, those people just drive over on Friday morning. Like, how convenient is that? So I have more respect for it in terms of it doesn't take a lot of time.
When we did the 3 days on the Wonder out of San Diego last spring, we got down there early, so we spent a whole day in San Diego too. So it was a longer vacation, or we turned it, just that extra day really turned it into a longer vacation than the cruise. So going out of Port Canaveral, if you took an early morning flight, you could possibly spend a day at Disney or doing something else in the Orlando area and then do the cruise the next day. So you could... I guess that made it nice for us, where we felt like it was a longer vacation than just rushing down there for the cruise and then coming back home right afterwards. Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah.
And a lot of people from the cruise group did make that, part of their Disney World trip or Universal, things like that. What we ended up doing, and that I regretted this decision a little, is we stayed at the airport. At the Marriott Orlando Lakeside, I believe is what that name is. It's got a great outside pool area. It's like a resort, but it's right next to the airport. There was reasonably priced. And in fact, we used my husband's Marriott points from his business travel. So that paid, we didn't have to pay for that night, which is really nice. And we swam, and that was our plan, was to go and swim and just sort of ease into the vacation and take it easy, just spend time with our son. But man, I was itching to be in Disney Springs that night, and we just kept going back and forth about even taking Uber over there. And then we were like, man, by the time we're going to spend all this time in the car, basically to go to dinner, probably not worth it. But we regretted. Now, I think it's a great hotel, and it's easy to stay right by the airport, and it's so easy the next day to get over to port. But I regretted not being in the Disney World area.
Next time. Yeah.
Next time, for sure, if I don't have Disney World trips all over, all surrounding that cruise, I know now that I need to be at Walt Disney World somewhere. Like, to even go to the hotels or like if I was in the boardwalk area, I could have gone to Apple Hill. We could have walked in that area. We could have had some of that Disney magic.
Definitely.
So,
well, the other thing that, when we looked at our 3-day cruise, and I'm sure you guys kind of maybe did the same thing, was because you've done things, you've seen some of the shows maybe or whatever else, you didn't feel like you needed to do those. So you could just kind of pick and choose what you wanted to do. So it felt like, to us, it felt a lot more relaxing. Did it feel like that to you?
Oh, yeah. For us, it was super relaxing. But that's how we made it as well. We didn't stand in line for one character, which was hard a little bit too. Like, I definitely saw him and looked, and even my son, but he didn't want to stand in line. And we had obviously done the 2 weeks on the Panama Canal earlier this year, so we did a million characters that trip. And so we just sort of all just chose to sort of do what we wanted to do.
Yeah, you don't feel like you don't have what we've been talking about, I guess, for the beginning of this, is you don't have that rush or that kind of that feeling overhead that you've got to go and do all these things. Otherwise, you're going to miss out because you've done them before.
Yes.
Well, cool. All right. Well, let's jump into the cruise itself. So this one leaves out of Port Canaveral. It's on the Disney Dream, and you've sailed on her how many times now?
This was only my second cruise on the Dream.
Okay. And so what were your thoughts with the embarkation process?
Easy. So we knew we were not getting to the port early, and we're not going to just be sitting there and, lining up for the pre-pictures. But I also wanted to be an early boarding number, because when I registered, the first time cruisers hadn't, and maybe I got in right before Silver. I honestly feel like those Silver hadn't registered yet, or maybe they were just about to. But we got a 10:30 port arrival time.
Okay. And
so we were in group 2 for boarding. And actually, we got to the port, and there was quite a long line. Oh, my gosh. People were not prepared. As a reminder to people, you have to go through security, just like at the airport, when you are arriving at the port. Like, entering the building, you go through security. And it was like every person who walked up to the security machine, they had no idea what was happening. So security took a really long time. But then after that, everything was super easy. So we arrived to the port at about 11:15. Well, we got through security at about 11:15, I think. 11:30, somewhere right in there. As soon as we were done checking in, they were boarding. And actually, maybe they were on the second group of boarding. So they were, I think, on like boarding number 6 through whatever. And that is based on not the time you arrive to actually check in, but your port arrival time. So a little tip, try to get an earlier port arrival time. So once you are booked, and that is based on your registration date. And we have talked about this before, but just go through and give the easiest answer to every question and go back and fix it so that you can get to your port arrival time when you're doing your registration. So go through and say that you're using birth certificates, even if you're using passports, and do all these other things so that you can get to picking your port arrival time. And I guess you just have to pick an earlier time if you can, because it really was awesome. Like, we literally finished, and because they had already gone through a few of the people for the boarding time, the line wasn't so crazy, like for actual boarding. And we didn't want that pre-boarding picture, so we didn't wait in that line. So that was like one less line we waited into. It was a breeze.
So somebody with an early, and I guess to kind of reiterate what Christy's saying, when you pick your boarding time, it's like one of the last things you do when you register. So that's why she's saying, go ahead and, just answer questions quickly. Then you can go back and change them so that you can get to the very end of the questionnaire where you pick your arrival time. If you have an early arrival time like you do at 10:30, what time would you recommend people getting to the port, would you say?
Well, it depends. Like, they have those character pictures, which they do in front of the ship model well, you don't know this. You've never cruised out of Port Canaveral, have you?
Not yet, but in February.
Oh, my God.
In March, yes. Finally.
Soon enough. Okay, so they have this giant model of the ship that's so cool. And you can do a character picture in front of that. Goofy was the character that was out when we arrived. So there's always going to be a little bit of a line that you can wait in to get your picture with the character in front of the model. So if you're going to want that, then obviously you want to arrive in time. There's a whole world of people that arrive like as soon as possible when the port opens. Even if they have the early arrival time, they arrive when the early arrival time happens. You can do that. You can go and get your kid, if you have a kid that's going to the kids club, you can go and get there's a line right in the port before you get on the ship for their registration. So you fill out the registration information when you are on home on your computer now before you take the cruise. But they give you a magic band for the kids. It's like, a little tracker. You can pick up that band in the port, or you can wait and get it on the ship later. And so you can do some of these things before you ever get on board. So it's kind of a preference. I guess you have to decide what kind of person you are. For this trip specifically, we wanted to get on board early, but we didn't want to be waiting. And so it worked really well for us to plan to arrive to the port at around 11 or so, go through the security line, check in. There was not a line for first-time cruisers or Castaway. Like, there was like one person type of thing in line. I mean, everything was so easy in that area. If you get there closer to 10 or 10:30, there's going to be long lines because all those people, there's a big crowd of people who arrive at the port early. If you get there at 12, it's going to be, by the time you're done checking in, or 12:30, it's going to be open boarding, and you can just walk on the ship by 12:30. It's pretty much almost always open boarding. So do you want to wait until your boarding number is called? If you're a first-time cruiser, you're probably going to have to arrive a little bit later. If you are taking Disney's transportation from Walt Disney World, you are arriving later. Like, they don't arrive until like 1 o'clock, I think, or even potentially 2. So it sort of depends on some of those things. It's a preference thing.
Okay, so what I kind of hear you saying is there's going to be masses at the beginning. If you want to miss some of the masses, maybe about 11 o'clock arrival time is going to get you on the ship pretty quick without. And this is generally speaking. Obviously, each cruise is different based on what could be happening that day. But kind of in general, it sounds like if you arrive just a little bit later, you might miss those masses that show up right at the beginning.
And if you have an earlier port arrival time, then you don't have to wait in those arrival lines either, which is kind of nice.
Right. Okay, so let's talk about what you guys booked, because this is the first time you guys have booked something other than concierge in quite a while, right?
Yeah, it's been a little while. Yeah, for sure.
So what did you guys book this time?
We booked an ocean view category. I was like, we are cruising when it's really hot and raining, and I don't anticipate wanting to sit on the balcony that often. I also knew this was a very short trip, and I didn't want to spend the money. I was looking for a less expensive way. And honestly, the inside room and the ocean view room were not that far off in price. But the ocean view room, I very specifically wanted that big porthole window. And I had a very strong assumption that my child was going to love playing with that in that window seat that they have on those large ocean view windows. Uh-huh. And that turned out to be true. My son loved this cabin. Like, this would probably be his favorite cabin. I mean, I think he liked the one with the space, obviously, too. He likes the lounge. I'm not going to lie. He even was like, what? There's no lounge. But he's 5 and he's already like, we don't have a lounge to go to. How will we get our milk? Yeah. I'm like, well, you just have to plan in advance. But he loved it. He loved that window. And so I was very pleased with our decision.
We had Frank on, and he's going to be back on again. And he's a platinum cruiser. He's been on a lot. He and his wife have been on a lot of cruises, and that's their go-to cabin is one with a big porthole like that, or with the portholes versus the veranda. And I love sitting on the veranda, but we sailed once on the Magic with the window, and I got to be honest, I think, price point wise, if you don't want to spend the extra money for the veranda, that window is awesome.
That window is awesome.
And I like the fact that you get the light, or you could look out and see where you are, whereas it's kind of like a cave sometimes when you're on the inside ones. But
right.
Yeah, so I kind of appreciate that as well. Was it hard getting, booking it later? Did you feel like you had plenty of choices?
There were still a good amount of choices.
Okay.
We did book the family, so it was the larger, which I think is what you need to get that window seat, that the large porthole. I don't know that to be certain one way, honestly, now that I think about it. But we booked the family ocean view, so it was a little bit larger, which we did like that space.
So overall, going back from concierge to something below concierge, you guys are pretty happy.
Yeah, we were. It worked out well that we didn't sit in the, I'm not going to lie, that we didn't sit in the port forever. That really did work out well. Okay, so I am going to tell you this because I was looking through my pictures on my phone. From the point in which we were still standing in line at security to walking in the Mickey ears, it was 12 minutes.
Wow, that's amazing.
And we were still in line at security. And then, then it took like a couple of minutes, obviously, to get through that line or whatever. But 12 minutes from walking through security to getting into the Mickey ear tunnel.
Let's talk about the Dream. The Dream basically does the same cruise over and over again. This is a 3-day cruise out of Port Canaveral, and talk about where it went. And then we'll get into the actual cruise itself.
The first stop was in Nassau. And then the second stop, which is the second and the last day of the cruise, was in Castaway Cay.
And then back to Port Canaveral. So let's talk about dining. So since you weren't concierge, I know you guys usually like to do breakfast in the lounge there, the concierge lounge. Let's talk about your experience dining on the Dream this time.
Obviously, you only go to each restaurant once. And so that's something. I will say and we started our meal right in Animator's Palette is where they did the sit-down meal for non-concierge, because now they have a concierge meal that was in Royal Court, I believe, or Royal, whatever they call it on the ship. So Animator's Palette was the sit-down restaurant. We chose to dine there just for ease and less people and less crowding. And we had our luggage. Oh, that was another thing. We did carry-on only. So that was fun. And we kept our luggage with us so that we could just unpack it. So we had it when we got on the ship. But where was I going? Oh, so we ate an Animator's Palette for lunch. I did track down because it was such a short cruise, I tracked down a head waiter and asked if I could place my order for lunch because I have a food allergy or food restriction. I can't eat gluten. And they looked at me like I had two heads because apparently nobody ever does it. But I did it, and I made my request, and I got the items that I wanted for dinner that night, which I definitely recommend if people have food allergies and they are they want a choice, because literally I would have had to order off of the menu in anything that said gluten-free next to it. And for the restaurant we were eating at that night, it was all duck. Like the appetizer was duck. The main course was duck. Everything was duck. And I didn't want to eat duck. So if I had not pre-ordered, that would have been a more tough meal for me to get a gluten-free option. But I did it, and I got my beef choice, and I got everything. It all worked out really well. And so that's where we spent that first night. We ate breakfast, or the first day. We ate breakfast in cabanas for both of the days, and that worked out fine.
And as far as being able to find gluten-free items, that was pretty easy there, too.
Yeah, so what you do in cabanas is you just go and find a head waiter, and then the head waiter can get you something. Like, I know that Disney carries the cinnamon donuts that I really like, and my son really likes them, too. So I just got cinnamon donuts for he and I. You know what? They were sleeping. And so I went and actually ordered breakfast while my son slept until after 9 o'clock that first day. So I just went and got the stuff myself and got coffee. That I missed. I really did miss the lounge for getting my coffee, like really close to my room. Yeah, so you just ask the head waiters and they'll get you what you need for breakfast. I also ordered off of the omelet line. So in the omelet station is all gluten-free, and so I did order an omelet both of the days, both of the mornings too, or at least 2 of the mornings anyway.
So the three main restaurants on the Dream are Animator's Palette, Royal Palace, and Enchanted Garden. Each of them, are different themed, obviously. How was your experiences in the main dining rooms? Did you eat there every night, or did you go to Paolo and Remy one night?
We did not do any specialty dining, so we ate as a family. We ate in the main dining rooms for our rotational dining 2 of the 3 nights. We really wanted to see Beauty and the Beast, and on like all the 3 nights, I swear for months, they've been doing Beauty and the Beast 2 nights in a row, and one of them was at like 7, so everything was gonna work out perfectly. We were gonna do that the one night. On our cruise, they did not. They only offered Beauty and the Beast one night, and they did either the 6 o'clock show or the 7:15 show or whatever. No, 8:30. 8:30 is the one for early dining. So I think it was 6 and then 8:30. And my son goes to bed. Even if we leave him up late, he's still like, we have to start his process at 8 o'clock. So we skipped dinner one night to go to the show. So we went to Animator's Palette and the Royal Palace.
So what were your thoughts there? How was the food?
Well, the food was good because I didn't have to eat duck.
Donald was happy with
I really
you.
didn't want to eat duck.
Yeah.
And Animator's Palette, the food was good too.
Okay. And how was the wait staff? Now, being on a 3-night cruise versus, 7 or longer where you really get to know them, what was your thoughts on that, being on a shorter cruise?
Yeah, we really didn't get to know them. And we were only there for 2 nights. And we didn't do the breakfast on the last morning. So we really had no time. But they were good. As per usual, the first night was slow. First night on every cruise is going to be slow no matter what. They're just trying to figure everything out. The second night, man, they were on it. It was like the fastest meal. It was also pirate night. It was the fastest meal I think I've ever had in any dining room ever. And it was really sad at that point to then have to leave them and go to and not get to eat with them again. We just did the quick service, so the flows for dinner on that last night.
Okay, and that's the night you went to Beauty and the Beast.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about entertainment then. You guys went and saw Beauty and the Beast. How was that?
It was really good. It's dark, though. My son sat through, so he's 5 now. He sat through Frozen in April and just was like enamored and totally in love with every moment of it. He wanted to leave with about 25 minutes left in Beauty and the Beast. It was really good, though. My husband and I really did like it. But, for kids, there are some dark moments. And so that's something to be considered. The other thing is so many people showed up 5 to 10 minutes late. And there was a group of people that were like looking for like 8 chairs.
Oh, no.
You cannot. It's just not going to happen. And there was only one showing on our cruise. So, that was disruptive, to say the least. It was disruptive to trying to enjoy it. It happens, of course. People's, whatever their schedule is, so I would say for sure, if you want a good seat and you want a seat together, you need to show up early for Beauty and the Beast. But it was really good. I bribed my kid with a trip to the store, and that's how I got him to sit through the rest of it.
Whatever it takes sometimes, right?
Right?
Okay, so entertainment-wise, for the rest of the cruise, did you guys see anything else, or did you experience anything else on board the ship?
We did not go to any of the other shows. We did go to the movies, though, and saw The Incredibles, too.
Oh, isn't that? What'd you guys think?
We liked it.
I love that. I cannot wait to see that again. So, yeah.
So that was fun. We did that on Saturday.
I'm guessing on a 3-night cruise, you probably didn't see this, or they probably didn't offer it. But I did hear recently from Len that Disney's been experimenting with on some of the longer cruises, I believe, maybe the 7 days in the Caribbean, where they're actually having some of the mainline shows like Beauty and the Beast in the afternoon, so that, people like you or people that with younger kids, it gives them another option, because you guys had the main dining, which is the early dining, which means you're going to the show at 8:30, which is what you're talking about, basically, that, that gets to be too late for kids. So it sounds like they're starting to kind of play around again. And I think that you said that they used to do that, right, Christy, where they had matinee shows?
Yeah, my first cruise ever, and I thought it was the best thing. So my first Disney cruise would have been back in 2013. And they did a matinee of Aladdin. And so it was great. We got to see the show. And then honestly, because my kid goes to bed, we hadn't seen the shows like a million of them after that. So
I guess I throw that out there. Just, maybe be on the lookout when you get on board the ship.
Yeah.
Check your navigator, because that might be an option for you later down the road on for people sailing on future cruises. So it sounds like they're trying to mix it up a little bit to give people a little bit more flexibility on being able to see these shows.
Yes, and you will get a schedule of all the movies and all of the shows the first day when you get on board with the navigator that they give you that first day. And actually, that's when we were so bummed about, because I had a friend traveling the previous week, and so I had her send me her navigator so I could sort of see what was happening. And then we knew they were playing Solo. And so my husband, we worked it out. He was going to go see Solo by himself. And I was just going to stay in the room when my son was sleeping. And then we were going to go to Beauty and the Beast on the second night. And everything was all planned. And that was not the way our cruise worked out. And Solo wasn't playing.
Oh, no.
And then it was, though, Delta had it on the plane. So Dave watched it on the plane ride home.
Well, I'm glad you got to see it. But you guys get to see Incredibles too, so that's right up there too.
And we all really enjoyed it. We were like, we're going on this short cruise and we're still going to the movies, but to us it was fun.
Well, awesome. So let's talk about your port days. So you had Nassau. Did you guys get off in Nassau at all, or did you guys just stay on the ship?
Yeah, we did not get off. That was the day we watched The Incredibles.
Okay. And did Blake go into the kids clubs, or did he do the kids clubs this time, or any thoughts on that?
No, we went for open house. So he and I went the first day during the open house, and he played in there for like an hour and 15 minutes. But and then we watched a movie in our room for the rest of the first day of the cruise. I think even before and after, or it must have been, right, the lifeboat drill. So we did a lot of movies. It was just so fun and chill. But no, he was like, I will go to the kids club with you. So it was fine. It was such a short cruise that I don't even know where we would have had time to send him to the kids club. I took him that second day as well, the Nassau day, to play in the splash pad. And he had a ton of fun going down the Nemo slide. We were going to actually go to some of the pools, like swim. They actually, on the Dream and the Fantasy, they have over towards, in the upper deck, over towards the adult only pool, they have this like little tiny pool, like splash pool thing. And it doesn't have a lifeguard, but it is a little family area, and he can bring his toy in there because you cannot bring a toy into the main pools at Disney. And so I was going to take him there, but then it started raining and we wanted to go to the splash pad. So we did that one of the days as well.
You know, a lot of people don't get off on Nassau, especially people that have been there before. What were the crowds like on the ship then that day?
It's really hard to say because we spent so much time at the movies, because that's when we went to the movies at 11. And then honestly, Blake didn't wake up until like 9:30.
Okay.
So I don't know overall, like on that pool deck. And then by the time we went out onto the pool deck, it was like 2:30 or so, 2 o'clock. And so by then, so many people come back, right? So it's sort of like a normal day.
Okay. Well, then we move into your favorite place in the world, Castaway Cay, the next day. What were your thoughts on Castaway Cay, and how was that?
So, of course, this is where not being concierge or platinum, I guess, and not having a cabana, this is where you see the most difference of traveling, I guess, on Disney, is that you're on the regular family beach. And you know what? We had a great day. We had a great time. We ended up walking because when we got off the ship, it's probably around 10 or so. It was a ton of people had gotten off the ship with us, and the tram area, like there was a huge crowd. And so we were like, there's no way we'd make it on the first tram. And so we're like, let's just walk. So we walked, and we went to the first of the family beach area, like beaches, I guess, right? Mm-hmm. Which is over by Cookies 1. And it was great because almost everybody takes the tram, and almost everybody stays on the tram and gets off at the second stop, which is where Cookies 2 is, and where the other side, and like I think that's closer to that big jungle gym thing in the water with the slides and stuff. And so I think that's where more people got off. So it ended up being great. There was a ton of covered chairs still available, a ton of trees. It really wasn't super crowded at all. It was nice. And then Cookies 1 didn't feel as crowded either. I feel like Cookies 2 is always super crowded.
And maybe that's because people get on the tram, like you're saying, they get off there and they just kind of congregate there. So
right.
Yeah. So how did you guys kind of plan, or what was your plan for the day? Just to go out there and hang out on the beach, or did you guys get out and do some snorkeling, or what did you guys do?
Yeah, we just kept changing our mind about how we were going to handle this day. And then I woke up and I was just like itching. I'm like, I got to get out there. I got to get out there. So then we got ready and left. We were just going to sort of see how we feel. Or how we felt. So we got out there, like I said, I think maybe it was like 9:30 when we got off the ship. So we got our beach stuff. We played in the water. It was hot. And we let my son play in the sand. It rained a couple of times. So the umbrellas were kind of nice. And then after we had our lunch, and after one of the heavier rains in the afternoon at about 1:30, I think we just decided, you know what, we'll just go back. So I could take a nap, and it wasn't our first time at the beach. So we were like good with the beach. And with the rain, it just had kept like raining and then stopping and then raining and then stopping, which is of course is going to happen in September. So we just decided, to go back at that point, take showers and things like that.
Did you guys eat at Cookies 1?
We did.
And how was it hard being able to get, once again, just for those that may have food allergies, is it hard to get gluten-free stuff there? Or, if you had a food allergy, do you have any tips or advice for that?
Yeah, so Cookies One is actually where they tell you to go if you have a food allergy. And this was the easiest time I've ever had getting food at Castaway Cay. So I'm guessing that in the future, I am going to just actually go and eat at Cookies One. Even if we are in a cabana, I am going to then just ask for, because they'll get a golf cart and drive you over there. So I'm just going to probably ask to do that because, so you do your pre-ordering of your food. So if you have a food allergy, you order your next day's food at your dinner service. So either through your waiter or the head waiter, they will give you the menus for the next day and you'll order your food. You can do your lunch, you can do your Castaway Cay meal, things like that. So I had ordered my food. I also obviously already know what they serve at Castaway Cay and learn what is best. What I would recommend for people is get a hot dog if you can eat hot dogs, or, a hamburger if you really like those non-melted cheese hamburgers. If you're getting a cheeseburger, they're slapping a piece of cheese on it, just so everybody knows. They are not melting that in there. And I don't particularly care for the gluten-free buns, but some people like them. So I just get a plain hot dog, no bun. And sometimes I'll order two. I really like the potato salad. I really like that tomato salad that they have, and they have coleslaw. So I usually ask for those things. Sometimes the ear of corn is not always gluten-free, so the corn on the cob or whatever. So I just don't get that. And then they have couscous, which is obviously not gluten-free. They have breaded chicken. They will make you, though, whatever you want. Like one time I don't even know how I got this, but I ordered chicken and a baked potato. It was flavorless because they make all the allergy stuff there. And so it's easier for them to just make very plain chicken and very plain baked potato. And I think I ordered fries once. I don't even know because, I've been to that island now a bunch of times and I didn't really know with the ordering how to do it. But now my recommendation is to figure out what they have and try to order those items to be gluten-free if that is your only allergy. If it's not, you do need to ask them, obviously, because I don't know, what has dairy and what has other things in it. But it was easy. There is a stand. There's this big, they're go to the guy with the boat. And there literally is a boat. They have all the different allergy tickets because they write them on these tickets. They had them in order by deck number. You tell them your cabin number. They pull it out. They send it to get picked up or to get plated. Then they give you a little stick and with a number on it. You put it on your table. They ask you which side you're sitting on. They deliver you your food. It was the quickest and easiest I've ever experienced eating at Castaway Cay.
So another magical day at Castaway Cay, except for a little bit of rain. But I know that's that's one of your favorite places. So you guys head back to the ship a little early, take a nap, and how'd you guys spend the last evening then? So
the last night we did Beauty and the Beast, and we ate at Flo's. They're all together on the Dream and the Fantasy. So there's the 3 quick service counter areas, and they're all right next to each other.
Have you guys eaten there a bunch, or is this kind of your first time doing this?
It isn't. I don't know. I think we've eaten there for dinner maybe one other time, or that's sometimes where my mom has taken my son. We eat there. We'll eat that quick service stuff for lunch sometimes or a snack.
Okay.
I don't know if we've ever done dinner there before or not. I can't recall, but it's not our first time eating that food. For me, I still have to do the whole find a head waiter, and then they plate everything. It always takes a little bit longer for my stuff, but everything else is really quick. And we ate in cabanas. So cabanas is not open for service on the first and the last night of a cruise, so for dinner. So on the 3-night cruises, it's only open for dinner one night. But we still ate in there because it was still pretty hot, obviously, outside. So instead of eating in the open air, and the pool deck is just a little bit loud, so we just brought our food in the cabanas and ate it there.
Oh, perfect.
It was a great cruise. We really enjoyed ourselves. We had a great time.
So you get to the last day and you guys embark and head back to Michigan. How was disembark? How was the disembarkation process? Did you guys, I guess, since you said you didn't do breakfast with your serving team, I'm assuming you guys went to cabanas before you got off? We did. And how was that? Fine, good, easy. It was funny because I went up there to get my coffee around 6:45. I just woke up early that day, and it was empty. And then we went back as a family at 8 o'clock, and it was packed, barely a table, not a table. You had to stalk tables to get tables, but it was good as usual. And people need to know at 8:30 on the nose, they close those food service lines. 8:30 a.m., not even 8:30 and 20 seconds. I mean 8:30. So if you know you want breakfast, you need to get everything you want
prior to 8:30 in the morning.
Yeah, 'cause I think that's a tip that we've been throwing out there. If you don't, especially for the early morning diners, if you don't want to be there at 7 o'clock in the morning, sometimes eating that early, you can, maybe sleep in or take a little bit of more of a casual morning and go up to Cabanas. But that's a good point to know that, at 8:30 they start breaking it down. So you definitely have to get up there at least by 8. I'd probably say at least to get some food.
Yes. Yeah, and I had when I went at 7:45, I ordered what I wanted for breakfast. It came completely different than what I ordered, but it was still breakfast. It was fine. I just ate it. And I said, I'll be back at like 8 o'clock to get it, and I'll find you. And so that's how we did that.
Perfect. Hey, and I want to throw this out there. This is kind of going off a little bit, but when we were on the Magic this summer, one of the places we found that we'd never really gone to before, but in the back before you go into Cabanas on the right-hand side, which is the starboard side of the ship, is Daisy Delight. And we use that a bunch because, sometimes you get into Cabanas, especially on those port days where everybody's in there, trying to get their food early in the morning and then heading out. So it gets to be pretty crowded. And that place they've got oatmeal, they've got grits, they have yogurt and fruit parfaits and some other different things like that. So if you just want a quick breakfast, we used that 2 or 3 times. The food was really good. And just another tip, I don't know if they have that on the Dream or Fantasy, something like that in the back.
So it isn't the same. And I don't know if it opens that early. So somebody will have to look at their navigator to see, because all their quick service is bunched together on the Dream and the Fantasy. And I don't know if there are breakfast options.
Okay. Well, that was something that we used, and it wouldn't be open the last day. I know for a fact it's not open the last day. So Cabanas is your only choice. But I just wanted to throw that out there, that really worked good for us on 2 of the port days because it was quick. We didn't feel like we had to be, fighting for a table in Cabanas when everybody's trying to do the same thing as they're getting ready to go out on their port excursions early in the morning. So I thought I'd just throw that out there. But okay, so back to you, what you guys did. How was disembarkation and getting back to the airport?
Really easy. So we took Uber back to the airport, and Uber picks up in the private car pickup area. So just for people to know. And I think there's a bit of a surge pricing. I don't know if it was because of the holiday or if because it was post-cruise, but it cost us more to get back to the airport than it did to get to the airport. So to the airport, I think was like $50, and to get back was like $75.
Okay. And so did you...
And we had the small car each way because, we just had 2 pieces of carry-on luggage with us. Is
that something, somebody that wants to Uber, do you get over to the private car place first and then request the Uber, or how did that work?
We were doing it on our way.
Okay.
So I was walking, so we made it out of customs and then did it that way.
And it was pretty quick as far as there's plenty of Ubers there to pick people up and get you on your way.
There was. I think it was like a 3-minute wait.
Perfect. I took an Uber down there a couple months ago, and the guy had just gotten back from Port Canaveral, and he's like, I'm not sure I'll do that again. He took somebody doesn't really matter, he took him to Royal Caribbean, but he only got paid one way because, if you're going, as an Uber driver, if you're going out there, you're kind of getting there in the morning, but you're getting there later. People are already going back to the airport by the time you get out there, so there's not a lot of people once they get out to Port Canaveral to turn back around and bring back to Orlando. So I just thought that was kind of interesting.
But what's interesting is I was talking to one of mine. I think we actually used Lyft this trip instead of Uber, but overall, because I think we can get miles with Delta when we use Lyft right now. But my driver actually said the opposite, that he loves those long trips because the short ones are all, $20 or $10 or $6, and the long ones cost more. So it's totally driver preference. It was so quick. We got to the airport so quickly. Everything was just easy, easy, easy.
Perfect. So, thinking back on this trip now, one more time, doing a 3-day cruise, what are your tips and advices for someone coming down there to do it?
Don't take a 3-day cruise. Take a 3-day cruise if you really know what you're getting into. But, like we beat that dead horse. Don't do it if it's your first time cruise. Maybe. Obviously, some people, it's their only choice. But just enjoy it. Figure out what you want to do. One of the comments from several of the people on that one Facebook post was just that they felt like they had to get it all in. And that's the problem. So you have to decide, because that is going to feel like a crazy cruise if you're really trying to pack it all in. We packed in nothing. My son played with his cars in the room quite a bit, and it was so fun for him, and it was fun for us. It was just, that kind of stuff is nice we watched movies together. We just really just did whatever we wanted and had fun. And so that would be my advice. Figure out if you can do that. And if you can't, then really decide if a 3 day is for you. We probably should have said this before we went to the last tips, but here are the last minute thoughts. But here are just 2 more random things that I wrote down from the trip as notes. One is that on the cruises, you can get a refillable popcorn bucket to buy your popcorn if you want popcorn on the cruise. So you have to pay for popcorn. Unless you're in concierge, and then they give you bags. So you cannot get the popcorn, though, out of the little window that sells snacks right before in concierge. They give you it specifically up there. But if you are buying popcorn, it was either $4.07 to pay per popcorn bucket, like with tax or whatever, or it was like $7.50 or $7 for the 3-night cruise for the refillable popcorn bucket. The popcorn bucket is the exact same at Walt Disney World right now. So if you're going to Walt Disney World and you're going on the cruise, make an assumption as to what you'd like to do with that popcorn bucket. But it's the same bucket. And I specifically looked because I was curious. And it's $1.50 for those refills. So obviously, if you're going to get the refillable bucket, unless you just want the souvenir, you need more than 2 to make it a viable, to make it make sense purchase price wise. So you'd have to do 3 popcorn bucket refills, I guess, or you can pay per popcorn. The other thing is some people had talked about either on other cruise lines or on this one, on other podcasts, a tip is to order room service coffee at nighttime and that the carafe will keep it all nice and hot until the next day. And my coffee was ice cold.
Oh, no.
So that tip did not work. So the room service coffee at 8 p.m., I think I got it at 8:30 or something, did not work for the next morning, so I would not recommend that. We did get room service Mickey bars a couple of times, and we ordered them in the restaurant, so we packed our Mickey bars in this trip, which was super fun. And that's it. Those are my notes.
Well, perfect. Well, as we finish up then, I guess, what is next up for you guys cruising-wise? I know that you've got another Disney one booked later this year, or is it next year?
Yeah, it's next year. It's next summer.
Next summer. But I think you've got a celebrity cruise coming up here soon. Is that correct?
Yeah. So this is so fun. In August, so I had the celebrity cruise that I had won, the preview on the Edge, and I won that as being a travel agent. Well, then in August, Celebrity sent me some email that said, Captain's Club, so anybody who's cruised Celebrity before, enter this contest to win a preview cruise on the Edge. Well, I entered it, and I won! So that was really loud, so I'm sorry, but I have 2 preview cruises on the Edge coming up, and I read the fine print to make sure I could do both, or that I wasn't excluded. But I won one as a consumer and one as a travel agent, both just random contest I entered. For the consumer one, they were like, post a picture and tell us why you like Celebrity or something. And I posted a cute picture. My son's first cruise was on Celebrity and we were eating and he's smiling. And so I won it. Isn't that cool? We actually, though, had to figure out who was going to go because my husband really doesn't have any more time. He cannot go on the second free cruise.
That's awesome. Winning one, much less 2.
Right. And they're back to back. So my cousin is going to go and my husband's going to go. And so on the second one, so I'm going to get lots of really cool pictures. And so we have Celebrity at the end of November.
Perfect. So if anybody out there is interested in Celebrity and has some questions about Celebrity, if you want to reach out to Christy and ask her, especially about the Edge, that looks like an amazing ship. It's going to be fun to hear your experiences and what your thoughts on that new ship as well.
Yeah, I'm excited. We'll definitely do a trip report after to talk about it.
Okay, then, I guess as we finish up today, thanks so much for coming on and sharing your latest cruise. It just sounds amazing. And I can't wait to finally get down to Port Canaveral here next March and kind of experience what you've experienced as well. But between now and then, if people want to get hold of you, Christy, where can they reach you on social media?
Pack Your Pixie Dust on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And my website is packyourpixiedust.com.
Perfect. And if you want to reach out to me, you can reach Steve at DCL Podcast on Facebook and also DCL Podcast on Twitter. So anything else before we close it out today?
No, if anybody has any questions, then they can reach out to us either through our Facebook page or any of the other social media channels, and we will try to address your question on our next recording. And then watch the Facebook page because we're doing giveaways. So we are going to keep doing magnet giveaways and things like that. So keep watching the DCL Podcast Facebook page because we will keep giving away the DCL magnets and or other things.
Well, so much fun talking to you, Christy. And between now and the next time, I'm sure we'll be texting and tweeting back and forth and talking some more DCL. So thanks so much, everybody, for coming back and taking a listen. If you're heading out on your next vacation between now and our next show, all of us here at the DCL Podcast would like to wish you fair winds and safe travels as you head out on your next adventure. So once again, thanks for coming back and taking a listen, and we'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast. Have a good night, Christy.
Bye.